All right, folks. Well, we did get some Datacron news tonight, dropped in a very cavalier kind of way. It was very blasé and like, it's no big deal. Don't worry about it. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtains kind of way. And it has set the community alight. I went to go teach a class. I came back 45 minutes later to pitchforks and flames. And this is a time when the community did not need to be up in arms. We just finally got over Relic Delta. We just finally got over Coliseum. And now this is being dropped in us. And I want to talk about it, and I want to talk about the history of Datacrons because the implication of what is happening here is actually way more important than, oh, by the way, there is a Datacron change on the horizon. So we will touch base on that right after the intro. And as always, if you find this useful or helpful in any way, please hit that subscribe button. My number goes up by 1. My monkey brain says yes. So Meathead released this announcement, the Datacron release adjustment, and I am gonna read the entire article, the entire update, just because it's pretty short. Hello, Holotable Heroes. My apologies for the lack of posts about this, chalking it up to the holiday hangover. The release cadence of Datacrons has always been a bit awkward, with Conquest and Eras have put a spotlight onto that. To better align our content in a more cohesive way, we have tweaked the timing for Datacrons. Instead of releasing every other month and lasting for 4 months, Datacrons will now release each month and last for 3 months. To account for this increased release schedule, we will be lowering the complexity of each set, with the goal of it being a net neutral amount of information to keep in your brains. We will monitor the impact of these adjustments, and as always, your feedback is important to the team, so please share with us your thoughts as you interact with these adjustments. Now, in the time since this has been released, there have been 2 edits to the post. The first, starting with set 26, reroll costs for Datacrons between level 4 and 6 have been halved. We have reduced the amount of factions per set from 4 to 2, which should make it easier for you to get affixes you're going after. So essentially what this means is that we are going to be getting a new Datacron set every month, and you will only have 1 conquest cycle in order to farm those Datacrons. If you're a Mega Whale, if you're a Kraken, that's honestly not that big of a deal. I know a lot of players in that category who have 30 Datacrons before Conquest even hits. They just spend and spend and spend. They want to make sure that they have it all for the GAC lock. If you are a player anywhere from free to play all the way up to like a Dolphin, where you do utilize Conquest to be able to get your Datacrons, this is a huge negative change, because what tends to happen is that during the first Conquest cycle, you do the majority of your Datacron farming. It plays out a little bit in GAC. You see where your weaknesses are, and then you go back and you get some more Datacrons based on what's working and what's not working. During those 2 weeks of Conquest, one of which is a GAC off week, usually, we don't really know what to get other than kind of guessing, right? And we rely on guys like Zareth, and we rely on guys like Vexatron, who are much, much smarter than I am, to kind of give us Datacron information and say, hey, I think that this is really good. And sometimes that information is amazing, and sometimes that information isn't so great because the Datacrons don't work the way that we want them to. So we go back and we try to get more. Additionally, with the RNG on Datacrons, sometimes you just get completely screwed, even if you're burning crystal after crystal and going back that second set. You tend to be able to get the Datacrons that you want spending those crystals. I don't actually think that this is a change that is going to increase revenue from whales or krakens, because those players now are most likely going to be getting less Datacrons per set, because there will be more Datacron sets active at any one time and less factions associated with each set. So there will not be as much of a reason to go 30 and 30 when you can go 20, 20, and 20. Really, this is not going to have a great positive or negative reaction on those big spenders, but it is going to have a negative reaction on the players. Now, with that said, for those of you who are Lightspeed token junkies and maybe have come to the game in the last 3 years, you may not realize this, but Datacrons were announced in September of 2022. So that is approximately 3.25 years ago. And Datacrons were in a very different place at that time. Now, unfortunately, CG has changed over their forums in the interim. So when I click on this post to find the road ahead, nothing comes up. I have looked on the forums. I cannot find it. I cannot find the transcript on Reddit, even though the post still exists. So we do need to pop on over, and Arnold is good for something here. He did an entire post talking about these Datacrons, talking about the actual update. We are not going to go through his entire post. It doesn't make sense to do that. The only important thing to look at here is the life cycle of a Datacron. As mentioned, finally a source of materials, blah, 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 Datacron life cycle. As mentioned above, Datacrons are temporary power and will eventually be dismantled into resources for your other Datacron sets. We have recently arranged our event schedule into 28-day segments, which we organize into chapters. Each set is active for some number of chapters, and a new Datacron set will launch at the start of each chapter. Let's take a look at the first few sets as an example. Now, this is basically eras and episodes. Episodes are chapters. It's the same 28-day cycle, just it has been rebranded. And if you look down here at the bottom, the first Datacron set, it was active for 1 month for farming, and then there were 2 more months of using it for a total of 3 months for Datacron sets. 1 month for farming, 2 months for using. The dismantle happens, and it starts all over again, right, with the next set. This is what we anticipated in the beginning, and players hated it. They did not have the time to farm the Datacrons they needed. It became a very nerve-wracking and overwhelming experience. So much so that way back when, we actually got this update. Datacrons need to have a longer lifespan. I feel I don't get a chance to use them after upgrading them. We hear you. That's why we've decided to slow the cadence of Datacrons from farming for a month and using them for 2 months, and adjusting it to farming for 2 months and using them for 2. This will hopefully reduce the stress some folks felt trying to rush and get their Datacrons prepared for use. So basically, what we are saying here is that this is exactly like, I don't know, Battlestar Galactica back in 2004. Everything has happened before, and everything will happen again. We are going back in time to exactly what Datacrons were in the beginning. Now, granted, Datacrons have changed a lot. How you farm them has become a lot easier through Conquest, especially with Conquest simming. But essentially, the feedback was, this is too complicated. There is too much going on. We are spending money on these resources. They are disappearing too fast. We don't want this. And CG said, hey, we heard you. We're going to fix it. We're going to change it. But they are reverting that change after multiple years. For an unknown reason. Well, for a reason that they have suggested to us is based on eras and the awkwardness that that comes to with Conquest and era characters and Journey characters. The problem here is that it is too much. 3 sets to take care of is a lot. Even if each set is less crazy than the sets that previously happened, we still have to contend with rolling those Datacrons. We still have to contend with spending money on those Datacrons in some situations. We still have to contend with the huge RNG that comes with trying to get the affix that you want. And although they will be less complicated and that should become easier, we have learned in the past that each affix is not created equal and the drop rates are not equal. And what that means is even though these sets are less complicated, it doesn't necessarily mean that the good affixes are going to be any easier to get. Additionally, because we are going to be using them for less time, we have not been told that Datacrons are going to be cheaper. We haven't been told that they will be cheaper for money. We haven't been told that they will be cheaper in materials or in Datacron currency. We have only been told that reroll materials from level 4 to level 6 are going to be lowered. That is it. And that is a problem. Datacrons, I will be the first to admit everybody hated them at first, and they grew into something that most players accepted as being a way to change up the meta and make the game a little bit more interesting. So many changes have happened over the years to the point where even though we have had overpowered sets like the set that is currently running and is a pain in my ass, players have felt, hey, you know what? They're welcomed to some extent. And this is just reverting us back to the beginning. Speaking of reverting us back to the beginning, you may remember over the last year or so, CG reduced the relic levels needed on Datacrons from 357 down to 135. And I'm pretty sure just recently they actually reduced the lower 3 level down to gear 12 or even lower. I don't have that confirmed, but I feel like that was something that was happening, and it did allow players to play with them even with some of their characters who maybe weren't at high relics. Granted, back then, having Relic 7 characters was much harder than having Relic 7 characters now, but some of these changes were actually relatively recent. With that said, with the new Datacron set that is currently in game, we are seeing two changes that have kind of gone unannounced. First of all, the relic levels have been increased again. I don't know what the relic level is for level 3 or for level 6, but I do know that the relic level for level 9 is now, for level 9 is now relic 6. It also says requires all previous bonuses to be active and target character at or above level 6. Now, in most cases, I don't think that that's actually going to change anything, but I am willing to bet that there will be some upcoming sets where that may be worth considering. Maybe the level 6 the level 6 affix is bounty hunters, but it needs dark side and they don't want it to be used on light side. I don't know. That I'm not too bothered by. The fact that they have stealth announced an increase in relic levels, especially on the heels of this, is something that bothers me just a little bit. Granted, I don't think it will actually affect me. The majority of my useful characters are Relic 7 or above. I am an endgame player. I recognize that most players are not endgame players. But the even more egregious change here is that if you look on the left-hand side, it appears that now the stat bonuses are also going to be affected by the relic levels at the higher relic level. So basically what that means, in the past, if your character's bonuses were active for the level 6, they could get the bonuses all the way to the level 8, but they could not apply the level 9, and that's fine. Now those bonuses require the entire squad to be at the level 9 stat in order to use those stats. This is kind of ridiculous, especially because they haven't said anything to us. Now, why are they making this change? CG in that post has said, hey, we're trying to align this with the eras to make sense. And that doesn't actually make very much sense to me because if you think about it, eras are locked in their own currency. There are no Datacrons in the Colosseum. There are no Datacrons in the new era way of doing anything. Those Datacrons only exist after a full 3-month period anyway. And because of the way that new farming works with these characters and being able to build out characters is going to take longer for players who do not completely whale. As an example, Stormtrooper Luke should be farmable right now, but he's not going to be for a while just because of the way the eras work. They have to end, and then weeks have to pass from there, and then Stormtrooper Luke will be farmable. Because of that, we are still isolating out players, and CG could make it so that the next set after an era ends adds the Datacrons that they want for those characters and still have those be isolated and targeted to the bigger spenders while not really having any effect on the non-spending or the lesser spending players, kind of how it is now. Some people have brought up the idea of bespoke Datacrons, which we have had in the past with the marquee events, and that's really not going to be a change that happens here, again, because of the era. And talking about journey characters like Darth Maul, who once he comes out, once the era is done, once that is unlocked, we have months and months and months before he will be accessible to the average player, which means that even if an era is not outlined in the same way, and it takes 2 months for Datacrons to come out for Darth Maul, it's still only going to benefit those players, and it won't be problematic or upsetting. Basically, how I see this going is that this is going to happen, and players are going to blink and miss their Datacrons, and they're not. It's just going to go. It's going to go so fast, and it is going to frustrate players. And honestly, as players, we needed some good news right now. I have been propped up on the hope of announcements to changes to the eras going forward with Era 2. I have been so high on the idea that, hey, CG is not going to leave us hanging here. And this is just the hat trick of really frustrating changes that are coming to the game. Not. There are many reasons. But one of my problems here is that last year I did a video called CG's Egnards Lemonade Stand and talking about how CG has opened up spending to all levels of players and have essentially made it so that players who are whales could coexist with players who are casual spenders, and those casual spenders could do meaningful things with their money and their rosters. And it was kind of cool. And I saw a lot of people come in willing to support the game because, hey, $20 a month, not a big deal. This is fun. And I feel like between eras, between needing level 85 to get your journey character, which would require additional spending on top of the marquees, between this Datacron set change, between Relic Delta, we are seeing a further and further tightening, and it is frustrated. It is frustrating. Very, very frustrating. Now, I would be remiss if I did not go in and look at the Datacrons, and I've seen them. I know what they look like. For those of you that haven't, the new Datacron set that does conform to this post is out. And many of us will see those kind of hit the store tomorrow. And right now, we are looking at two factions, bounty hunters and just droids. And if we look at the level 9s and what is out there, honestly, most of them do not look that bad. This Datacron set looks like the kind of Datacron set that we felt Datacron should be. Boosts that help a faction out, that help a team out, but don't completely overpower the board, right? So if you get less of these, it's not going to be the biggest problem in the world. And if Datacrons continue to be a little bit like this, boosts that are great, but not like super amazing or crazy, that will be a positive change for Datacrons. But there is nothing that says that they can't do this right now. There is nothing that says that a Datacron can't exist in a platform that looks like this right now. In fact, we have had Datacron sets like this before. We have had Datacron sets where we say, the level 3s are really the more important thing. Don't worry so much about what level 6s or level 9s you get. But I fundamentally do not understand why CG is giving us another change that they definitely know is going to be frustrating for players. I just don't get it. There is another answer. CG, there's another. I understand what you're trying to do here. And I've already explained why it doesn't matter, but I understand what you're trying to do. It's very simple. Give us our 2 months on and 2 months off Datacron sets. And then at the end of every era, maybe release a third set that does not conform to those amounts. Maybe release a set that you get through era stuff from the next era, or you got from the era that just came out, that you can use Datacron currency on. Give us a bespoke set that only lasts for 2. I don't know. But right now, your players are being hit by negative after negative after negative, and we are looking for a win. Every time I come to my computer, I feel deflated. Every time I try to post something, I go, what's the point? And this should not be the life cycle of this game. This is Star Wars. We love this game. We love this property. We sometimes love you guys and sometimes not so much love you guys. I honestly think that for me, one of the hardest parts of this particular change is actually just reading the post and the kind of blasé, it's not a big deal attitude. Not really going into full depth and explaining what's going on or what this new set looks like or why we need all of these edits when all of that information should kind of already be in this post. And I'm wondering if I refresh it now, we do not see another update yet. It just seems like in 2026, we could be doing better. And I, as the person who has been called the CG shill on numerous occasions over the years, feel frustrated as hell. I don't know. Let me know what you think. Love to hear from you either in the comments or on Discord. I don't always participate in the conversation. I do read a lot of the better conversation. Peace out and have a great rest of your night.